I thought about how I was living my life, right? Was I really happy? And I loved being an entrepreneur, but the fact of the matter is, I didn't feel like I was really getting anywhere financially, and I wasn't leading the life I wanted to lead. I decided I wanted to change my life. I remember when I started doing like bigger deals and I was dealing with more zeros, freaked me out, man. And I'll never forget, I woke up in the middle of the night full of fear,
Mhm.
right? Going, oh my God, is this going to work? And I had to go to my computer, pull up my spreadsheet, check the numbers to to comfort myself and my fear.
Resilience, badassery, pivoting are some of the words that define Deborah Razo. I want to bring her to this specific show today because she's not only inspirational, she has changed many people's life through different type of coaching, speaking engagement, and I really wanted to bring her spark to this show today. Hi, Deborah. How are you today?
I'm great and I'm so happy to be with one of my favorite people in the world this morning. And, it's so interesting that you should use those words because I think I'd use those words right back at you. And to talk about spark, I think between the two of us, we spark a lot,
Our favorite thing to do.
right? Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Deborah, you have gone through so many transformational times. A lot of times your life was at risk and you have to pivot and you have to be resilient and adapt. And I think that people need to hear about what happened in Deborah's life that she really scaled up her business, but it was from a personal standpoint, on her heart, on her mind. She found a lot of questions that she needed to ask. And then this happened to her that she changed. What was that journey for you, Deborah?
Um, well, I think I need to start out by saying I've always had a little bit of a fire in my belly, and I've been an entrepreneur for 35 years. So I didn't take a corporate route when I was younger. I took an independent entrepreneurial route. And my first few businesses were, quite frankly, lone wolf businesses. I was everything. I was owner, I was operator, I was janitor, I was secretary, I was accountant, I was everything, right? And the businesses that I had were made me happy. And I think that's really also key. Like, are you happy doing what you're doing? I had that journey, and then 15 years ago, I had a really near fatal car accident, and a tire blew. It was simple as that, but the car flipped and left me pretty devastated. I had a head injury, and I was air to a hospital where I was told I had a broken neck. And it was a year worth of healing. And during that time, you have a lot of time to think. And I thought about how I was living my life, right? Was I really happy? And I loved being an entrepreneur, but the fact of the matter is, I didn't feel like I was really getting anywhere financially, and I wasn't leading the life I wanted to lead. Like, I had heard about people that were getting passive income and they had time freedoms, and I did not have any time freedoms at the time. I had two high schoolers, I was a single mom. I was like every type of time restriction available was mine. And I decided I wanted to change my life. And my brother, who came out and took care of me during that time, had gone through a bunch of Tony Robbins stuff. And he was like, this might be a good place for you to start as soon as you're physically able, because it all starts here. It all starts right here, right in the mindset, right? What you want to do, what you don't want to do, what you think is scary, what you think is risky. How do you mitigate those risks? How do you move through them? Right. And I realized I had been an entrepreneur, but I was really still in a lot of fear about doing things. And after this near fatal accident, I'm like, screw fear. I'm like, I want to go for life. I want to go for the life I want, and there was a part of me that also wanted to show my kids you can have the life you dream of, and what I realized when I started Googling passive income, and real estate kept coming up. So I was like, okay, I got to get me some of that. And at the time I didn't have any money. I had gone through this accident. I've gone through all my savings. It took me so long to heal. And I actually had to borrow some money for my first flip, but I made some money, and that was my ideology. Like, I'll flip, and then I'll make some money, and then I'll buy and holds. And so that's how I started, and I loved it. And that was one of the things that I didn't expect, right? Like, I just wanted that passive income so I could get to financial freedom, but I actually really loved the process. And it, what do they say when you're doing something you love, that it's not work, right? It's just hours spent. So I absolutely loved it. And I guess, and I wanted to surround myself with other people who were loving what they were doing. And I think that's when we met. Yeah. And then there was other women who not only influenced my life, but I was able to influence their life as well as you. And we were able to kind of grow together, which was really amazing. Like, especially because we weren't all necessarily on the same real estate track, but we were enough crossed over that we could support each other. And I found that really great to have that network of support around me. And now I'm at a place where, gosh, it's been 15 years since my car accident. And I just had another health challenge. I was in treatments this summer for cancer, and that's also changed my perspective again. And I guess that's the thing about life. You get the chance to turn and pivot, and like you were saying, and it takes you in different directions. And so now now I'm older. And now I have passive income. And it makes a difference, people.
It does. It
It
does.
And so now I'm like, okay, I still love what I do. I can't see myself not doing it, but I'm also, not having to grind it as hard as I was grinding it before. So it's nice having the luxury of that. Yeah. So.
Yes. Deborah, you mentioned that you wanted to find what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I know you're very talented at helping other people is getting them unstuck and helping them find their own spark.
Mm.
How do you do this process for yourself?
Wow, that's a great question. That's a great question. And it's great because I'm kind of in the middle of the process right now. And it's really interesting. I think as much as we feel the need to change, we resist change, So it's a really and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think it's kind of universal to people. I once saw this cartoon, and there's a man in front of a room full of people, and the bubble on top of his head said, "Who wants change?" And everybody has their hands up. Everybody wants change. And then the next cartoon, he's in the front of the room, and the bubble on top of his head says, "Who wants to change?" And nobody has their hands up. I think that's how it is, right? Change can be scary, and change can be risky, and even if we're in a place where we know there needs to be change, it's like, it requires some encouragement. It requires some feeling of like the change is going to be better than where I'm at right now, which I'm a true believer that the only reason we change is for a desire for pleasure, or for get out of pain, right? And most of the time it's getting out of pain that'll really make you change, so I think that, like, in my coaching, I'm not afraid to say, you want to be here in 5 years? Is this where you want to be? Like, Can you take 5 more years of this and, the complaining that you're doing? Because that's where you're going to be if you don't make a change. And that's what I'm doing with myself right now. I'm changing my direction a little bit, and I'm like, what do I want now? What things have changed? How do I feel about, my time and my energy being spent over here? Where do I want my time and my energy spent? And I think it's only when you start meeting people who are spending their time and their energy how they want, like they've constructed a life like that, that you realize you can do it too. Like, otherwise it's just this fantasy of, that you're shooting for. But when you start meeting people who are actually planning their life that way, it had an impact on me, at least, that I was like, oh, I can plan my life that way. That's great. How did you do that?
Yes, no, for sure. Is the role models, mentors, coaches that are living the life that you see living that inspires you to make the changes you need. And I was talking to a friend, and she was complaining about many things on her life, and she was claiming that she deserved this type of life. And I asked her a question, and I told her, if you were going to get this thing, who you need to become in order to attract that. And that shocked her, because for a moment she wanted to put the control of her life in the outside resources, in the outside world, in the outside environment. And she looked at me, and I told her, just tell me 3 words of, in order for you to get that life, who you need to become. And from now on, you're going to start acting that way. And as she called me the other day, and she has been doing amazing things. I mean, she started buying a building now, a commercial building, because she wanted passive income. And I'm very proud of her. I'm very proud of her. But as you mentioned, is the need, the time, take the time to step back and say, what is that I really want out of life? And I think that for you, it has happened many times where you step back and you evaluate your life and you do that transition. And I think that's one of the wonderful things that, and wisdom that you share with people. How do you transition?
Right. And I need to say too that, like, I'm still influenced by mentors. You're still influenced by mentors. I think growth is a continual process, and in fact, I was just with somebody the other day, and she was talking about her business and the transitions that it went through. And she said a sentence that stuck out to me. She said, the less I worked, the more I made. And I was like, how does that work? And I said it back to her. I said, could you see that again? And that's why I retained it. Because like, even I've done a lot of work in money mindset, but I hadn't adopted that one. Right. Like, I was like, how would that change my life if that's how I felt? I'm like, okay, we're going to work on that.
Yes, yes. And I think that that's one of the wonderful things, to be around people like her, like you, and other communities too, because it just helps you shift the perspective on how can you get to a place where you want to be. Whatever is that you're doing today is not the same person that will be able to walk and go to where they want to go. So there are changes that needs to be made. And I know that
too, and persistence, right? Yeah. Like, we've known each other for years, and we've seen each other through a lot of bad times, a lot of good times, but the thing I've never seen either one of us do is give up. I mean, you have to be persistent, and although there have been times I have so wished it could come faster.
Oh, yes.
Doesn't come fast.
I can relate to that. And we think sometimes a Friday glass of wine can help you feel like it's getting there faster, right? Sometimes we have different ways to approach problems. And I think that one of the things that I love about working with you in different areas is how you approach problems. And I want to ask you, What has been one of the biggest problems you have to approach during these times, and how you step back and look at the problem and move forward?
Um, Gosh, I don't know. There's been so many of them. And and I'm laughing about it because I jokingly say to other entrepreneurs, like, the fact of the matter is, when something's going okay, my phone doesn't ring. Whether, like, if it's a house that I'm, rehabbing, or some construction, guess what? I don't hear from anybody if it's all going okay on site. If it's everybody's paying their rent and there's no issues, I don't hear from anybody if, from the property managers, if everything's working. My phone only rings when there's a problem, you know. So I totally consider myself a professional problem solver. And I've learned some things about that for myself over the years. And that is, if I'm answering the phone and I don't feel resourceful, and I don't feel like there's going to be an answer and there's going to be a solution, if I get emotionally, like, frustrated with the problem, I feel like it cuts down on the creativity on solving the problem. And so my own internal emotional temperature has a lot to do with my ability to solve the problems. And there's times when, I'll just say, like, I'm dealing with my family, or, my brothers and my sisters, or, my kids, and they're pissing me off or whatever, and I'm not in a good mood. My husband, whoever.
We'll know that.
Right. And then I have a call that answers the phone that influences how resourceful and creative I am at solving the problem. And I know that about myself now. So I'm able to kind of step back from that and go, let me think about this, and let me get back to you, if I'm in that kind of state, because I know that I need to be in, like, a really productive state, and that is something that is not emotionally reactive, that can see things logically and not get so engaged in it, so that you can see solutions. And I try to present with multiple solutions so that we can move forward with something, but it's definitely something that I've learned along the way. And I think that there are other people that have showed me how productive that is. And it's definitely something that I still feel like, there are certain things that trigger me, still to this day. And I have to step back and kind of go, okay, let's just let that be. And, and it's okay that I'm safe. It's all good. We'll figure it out.
I
So
love that. Yeah.
yeah, it's a
Stepping
process.
back. Yeah. I think that one of the things that I learned from you a lot is how to leverage the network of people that I know when when I'm myself in a situation that, yes, I might have some solutions, but the importance of reaching out, asking for help, advice, and having conversations with people that maybe went through it or have a different perspective. And Deborah, I know that you are you are the founder of one of the fastest growing networks in real estate for women, WREN Inspires. And I know that that has been also a key. Tell me the story on how you leverage this network to also scale your business to help other women, because I think people needs to know.
Yeah, when I first started the Women's Real Estate Network, WREN, um, I was actually flipping at the time in LA, and a bunch of the hedge funds were coming in and buying up a lot of the properties. So it was really hard for a flipper to secure anything, and I was super frustrated. So it was out of my frustration that I was like, where are my girls? I wanted to be surrounded by other women who were in real estate, not necessarily flipping. So I had a Sunday brunch, and you were there. I invited you to the brunch, and it was fantastic. There was a great energy of sharing information, and, oh, you need an attorney? I've got an attorney that could help you with that. Or you need this? I've got somebody who can help you with this. And I realized that there was power in that. And I think that was even though that was kind of an experiment and born out of my frustration, I saw the potential of the power that that could lead for other people, myself included, right? Like I found solutions at that brunch, and then we all started meeting, and of course, wine was involved. And it was great, and it still is, and it's grown to this day. But we foster an environment where, if you don't have the answers, you might be able to look next to you, and that woman might actually have the experience or the answer that you need. So it's a community like that, so that you can share what it is you're going through and what it is you need, and also be a resource for what it is other people are needing at the same time, right? So there is a lot of wealth in that. And I think through that community, I also realized that there was a lot of deals that came through, and there was a lot of, money that came through, and, how that could benefit my business with matching the two together. So, it's helped me in a lot of different ways. And it's fun. It's fun, like, do you get a theme in my life? Like, I want to do things that make me fun, that I find fun, you know?
That makes you happy. That makes you happy having fun.
Yeah. I mean, my biggest, thing right now is like, how do I work less so that my body can rest, right? Because there are times when I'm just so excited about what I'm doing, time goes by so quickly. I'm like, oh, I haven't eaten lunch, and now I'm starving at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's like, oh wow, my head is so engaged and so interested. And then, so, my challenge is like making sure I'm taking care of my body. Bad problem, really, in the scope of problems.
Well, you brought an amazing three main points. One, as women, sometimes we forget, we get so engaged, we want to like get it so much involved that we forget to take care of ourselves first. And for me, I have to put an alarm every time I have to eat or drink water, because I forget. I'm so into it. Then it's like, oh yeah, I have to do that thing. And you mentioned too something very powerful about women. And I think that for many years, women believe that we are in a disadvantage when it comes to business for X or Y reason. But I think that a lot of women haven't figured out, yeah, that we have a very unfair advantage against every other people or every other guys out there, right? And it's the fact that as women, we're willing to share knowledge, resources, experiences openly to help each other. And I know that in the corporate world, it doesn't work the same way, or at least they have been a culture not as helpful or supportive. But I think things are changing. But in the entrepreneur world, as you mentioned, we're lonely, we feel lonely, and we need to find our tribe. And I think you thrive on that. So the third thing is, Deborah, you network in a different way with people. What do you do different that really help you succeed networking?
Wow. To me, networking is getting to know people. I mean, and I think some people think that networking is an exchange of phone numbers and email addresses. And I don't see it that way. And granted, and even though I foster a networking company, I'm a little bit of an awkward networker. It's not my best skill. I'll be really honest with you. Put me in a room full of people and I get a little overwhelmed, and maybe that's why I have to break it down. Like it's not just an exchange of phone numbers and emails. I'd like to get to know people. I want to get to know, where their areas of expertise is. I find people's stories fascinating. I find, and getting to know them also gives me an opportunity to help them if I can, and for us to share something. So I look at networking as, really fostering relationships. And I think that, that's a change for a lot of people who are looking at just making a contact, but I think because of that, I also, my resources have grown in the sense of when I have a problem I'm not sure how to solve, I know people who I could call on, right? And I think that makes a difference. And that's just the way, you know, like I feel like kind of I am, and in the sense of breaking down large groups of people, that's what makes it comfortable for me. And I think you've got to be comfortable, right? You've got to be comfortable to be genuine and sincere and present yourself, you know? So yeah, that's what I've done. Although I've seen you work a room.
Well, it's pretty funny because a lot of people think that I'm an extrovert and I enjoy being out there. And as you like, it takes me time. But something I have learned in networking is when you take yourself out of yourself and you think about, I'm coming here because I need something, but I can offer something. It just changes. And when I go and I approach to people, I focus on them, not on me. That takes a lot of anxiety from my interaction. So I ask them, what is that you're looking for? And then I identify, can this person help meet my needs and can I help this person? There's times that I'm like, yeah, I mentioned this is what I'm looking for. I don't know if you know anybody or if you do this. And most of them can help or not, but they will say, I know someone, great. When can we connect? And I make a note and I follow up. And I think that that's a part that you do amazingly. Like you are a master of following up.
I do a lot of following up because that's where I feel like the real juice is, you know, like getting to know the person. And you're right, I do that. Thank you.
Yes, it's like you're like the genius of following up. I'm like, I need to start learning from her, you know, how to follow
Yeah.
up, as you mentioned, to foster those relationships. And that's something that you do amazingly, and people recognize that in you as a woman, as a person in business, as a coach too, as a mentor. And I think that that's one of the keys that you are teaching other ladies working with you. Tell me, what is your main focus? And when you go into a coaching relationship in a group or individually, when women approach to you and say, Deborah, I want to scale my business, in this case, real estate.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting because I think that me being a coach, say 5 years ago, is different than me being a coach now. You know, I've learned along the way how to better coach people along. And, um, you know, people have a hard time getting out of the safety of their environment to get to do something that they want to do. And I find myself as a coach helping to bring them along, you know, with feelings of security, right? And I don't believe that another person can take your certainty or you know, get uncertainty away from you. You can only give it away, right? You know, you can only give it to somebody and say, oh, okay, you know, I don't feel certain in this area. But the fact of the matter is, I think that I have the ability to remind people about the resources that they have with what's inside them. And I've learned over the years how to help somebody get to those things. And I'll just, you know, tell you in a statistic, I've been doing a 12-week group coaching session for about the last 2 years. And my partner and I have you know, really concentrated on getting everybody over the line as far as getting, you know, property under their belt, whatever it was, buy and holds or flips or whatever it was. And it hasn't been until these last couple sessions that we've figured out the formula to help do that. You know, and once you do that, you realize you can do it again, and you do it again faster, right? And you do it again more proficiently, and it's such a confidence building thing. And that's not something I give people, it's something I show people the way to get, and they get it, you know, and then once they get it, they repeat it. So it's really a beautiful thing, and I love seeing that growth in people, you know. So it's really wonderful. And sometimes it's just about somebody being able to express what it is they're going through. And even though I might not have a solution right off the top, or they might not have a solution, being able to have somebody to talk about the whole problem with is part of the solution, so yeah, it works out really well. Yeah.
I love that. It's that little push, right, to people. It's like, yeah, you can do it. And
Yeah.
yes, taking that first step is so critical. A lot of people just get panic, and for a lot of thinkers, like I was one of those, like I will get stuck in a loop for a while before I take action. And sometimes it takes a coach or a mentor to do that little push, right, to go and get into their first property or prepare themselves to scale their business.
Well, and you have to recognize that there's, your risk tolerance.
Yep.
Right? And then you have to recognize what would make me feel more secure in this situation. And then you have to do that.
Yeah.
Right? And yours is different than mine, which is different than anybody else's, so you have to work on that individually, because that's what that's about. Like, I don't want to take that risk. And then it was like, okay, what do you need to have in place to take that risk? What is it that you need? Do you need more information? Do you need confirmation of something else? What is it that you need? And then you need to go find that, so yeah, it is a process for sure. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's a pretty challenging process to sit in front of fear and figure out, hey, I feel uncertain about this. And I know I have to take an action if I want to change, or I want to create a change for myself. What kind of information, data, or certainty I need to build around this in order to move forward? And I think you have that magic, helpful thing to them to figure out, hey, there's something happening here. Can you sit and look at your fear?
Oh, I don't know if we're really ready to get into the F word, Jen.
It depends on the day. But that F word, geez.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge, and I mean, there's so many acronyms for it, and but the fact of the matter is it's real, right? And it's there inside of us to keep us safe, right? But then, there are times that it goes off and it doesn't need to go off, and you can comfort it and you can go, wait a minute, I'm still safe. I remember when I started doing like bigger deals and I was dealing with more zeros, freaked me out, man. And I'll never forget, I woke up in the middle of the night full of fear, right? Going, oh my God, is this going to work? And I had to go to my computer, pull up my spreadsheet, check the numbers to comfort myself and my fear, right? Go, wait a minute, okay, yep, I'm calculating this right. This is gonna work, But the truth is, when we grow, there's a natural feeling of that, whether it's more zeros that you're putting under your, into your projects, or whether it's more properties, or whether it's that first property, it makes a difference.
It does. It's funny that you mentioned this, because even doing commercial deals, Deborah, when I'm writing that check for $10,000 for a smaller deal, it costs the same anxiety for me to do $1 million or $10 million. It's like, oh my God. So there's no difference.
Yeah.
It's there. And as you mentioned, it's facing it. Yes. I think for me personally, fear is always there. It doesn't go away, as a way to look at something and say, hey, evaluate, find the information that will make you feel comfortable. I cannot assure success. That's, for me, it's like I cannot assure success. But what I can assure is, if you gather the information you need, the resources that you need, the desire that you need to pull through, you will find a solution if you do your best. Sometimes the solution is not what you want, that's for sure. But what I have noticed is, navigating through the fear, it's easier than doing that first step, right? To really move forward. And I learned that, with coaching, right? Taking that first step sometimes is harder than going through the process.
Well, and what's the result of not taking the first step? Then
Correct.
you get to stay in the same rut that you've created,
Yeah.
right? And and I say rut because if you're looking at wanting to change things already, you're not happy where you are.
Yeah.
You know, so let's just face that truth and, and know that there's going to be a process and there's going to be fear in changing things and there's going to be, things that you're going to have to walk through and it's always going to be there. So how you learn to deal with it now is probably really a good thing, so.
Yes, yeah. And I know that you address people in many ways, including giving them challenges through your coaching group and through the community. If people want to get into one of the challenges with you to get to know you, your partner, and some of the results that they want, what would you advise them? One, on connecting. Second, on how to come prepared to that challenge.
Sure, we're running a 5-day challenge now next week. And so I'm not sure when this is going out, but if you want to connect with us, you can go to Momentum Mentoring RE Real Estate.com and see when our next coaching is coming up. It's coming up in the new year. So we'll be starting that. It's a 12-week program and we'll be taking people through it. And the point is that we lock into what your outcome is, and then we work those 12 weeks to satisfy that outcome. So whatever it's not necessarily for flippers, it's not for, buy and hold, it's not for creative financing, it's whatever your desire is in the real estate realm. But my partner and I have about 50 years of experience in real estate. So, we can figure out a way to get you there if you're willing, and that's what we deal with. And we deal with accountability. I know I'm really like happy and light on this, but I can be real ball buster.
Yes, she can. She can. Ovaries buster.
And in getting people over the line, sometimes that's what they need, and that's what I've needed. I've needed my coaches to kick my butt and call me out on things. And it's those people I've really respected, to go, Deborah, you're not living your highest self. You're not doing what you say you're going to do. And it's those people who lovingly do that for me that I really respect and admire, because I need that kind of accountability. Right. And I think other people do too. And at least that's what they tell me.
Yes. So, Deborah, thank you so much for sharing your spark, your inspiration with our audience, and your wisdom drops, right, in every area of life through the different challenges. I will make sure that I put your contact information at the description so people can connect with you. Again, thank you for being with us today.
If there are women out there that are looking to get started in real estate, I really suggest you go to wreneducates.com. We have a lot of free material up there, as well as some paid education up there, and we're growing that whole area. So if you don't mind putting that link in, I would appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.